Welcome to the Jackson Rudolph Podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Rudolph, and this is episode 97, brought to you by the one and only, the legendary Black Belt Magazine. We have got two very special guests on the show tonight in Team Paul Mitchell's Haley Glass and Alex Mancillas, the dynamic duo, the power couple. They're on the show tonight. At the top of the show, you can see the news run across the bottom line. I'm going to blitz through this really quickly so we can get to these two guests up here. But just a couple of quick little announcements. First off is a Jackson Rudolph podcast announcement. We are going to be hosting 3 different shows at the Battle of Atlanta. There's going to be a late night with Jackson show. All of this is going to be streamed through Black Belt, through Battle of Atlanta social media, so be on the lookout for this. The first show is Friday night. It's going to be a late night with Jackson, kind of like a Tonight Show vibe. That one should be a lot of fun. I'll be announcing some of the guests of that show as those things are booked. Then on Saturday morning, we're going to have Good Morning Sport Karate, which is based off of like a Good Morning America concept. And so these are basically television-style streams that are going to be coming out through social media for the Battle of Atlanta that you guys are going to get to enjoy from the comfort of your homes. Or if you're at the Battle of Atlanta, there's a chance that you'll actually be able to sit and watch this live and be like a live studio audience for some of these broadcasts, which I think is going to be really cool. And then the last of the shows is going to be right before the finals. And I'm arguably most excited about this one. Just like you have Sunday NFL Countdown, we're going to have the Battle Zone Countdown, and it's going to be myself and other sport karate media personalities, maybe some friends from sportmartialarts.com, maybe some friends from Martial Arts Internetwork, maybe some others. We're going to have to find out, right? But multiple sport karate media personalities are going to be joining me and doing an analysis of everybody in the finals, which is likely to include these two, making predictions on the evening. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So stay on the lookout for more announcements, the guests that are going to be on those shows. I'm super stoked for it, and big shout out to the Battle of Atlanta for making that happen. That's going to be really cool. Couple of other little news things real quick. Dean Barry fought a UFC fight over the weekend, UFC Vegas 52. Unfortunately, had an unintentional eye gouge that led to a disqualification. But hey, anytime that we get somebody from the sport karate community taking it to that level and going full contact, you got to give them a shout out. So shout out to Dean Barry for even getting that opportunity to the UFC, and hopefully we get to see him fighting again there soon. And then on the traditional karate side of things, sport karate's very own Ariel Torres and Mason Stillwell both recorded top 10 finishes at the Karate One Premier League event in Portugal. Ariel Torres wound up taking 5th. Mason Stillwell wound up taking 9th. So that is really cool, and congratulations to those guys. And some news that just broke today is that another power couple in sport karate, the Likers, are now expecting. There's going to be a baby Liker on the way, so congratulations to Becca and Jarrett. Always super cool to see a new little ninja coming up in the sport karate community. So that does it for sport karate news this week. And it's time for me to stop talking because we got 2 guests up here that we haven't gotten to talk about yet. The whole show is about them. So Alex and Haley, thank you guys both very much for taking the time. And I'm going to brag about you guys a lot during this show. So first, I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourselves. Alex, let's start with you, my man.
Wait, hold on. Maybe I should do something like this, you know? Hey. What's going on, everybody? I'm Alex Mancillas, member of Team Paul Mitchell Karate. I compete in weapons and fighting. Been doing it for going on 17 years now, which sounds insane, right? But I'm very grateful and blessed to be where I'm at. And yeah.
Thank you, Alex. And Haley?
Hi, I'm Haley. I am 18 years old. I've been doing martial arts for about 13 years. I'm a second-degree black belt. On Team Paul Mitchell, I go to the University of Florida. Sorry for the background. I'm currently moving out. I just finished my first full year here at college, so super exciting stuff. Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Haley. That's a big deal. And I know that we're going to get into some of these because you guys both juggle a lot in life, whether it's college and other commitments and all kinds of stuff, on top of being professional sport karate competitors. But we're going to get to that later. So, Haley, congratulations to you on that. And really, that brings up, speaking of congratulations, the reason that I decided to have you guys on for this particular episode, because true fans of the Jackson Rudolph podcast will know that Alex and Haley already got an episode back in season 2. We had to bring them back for season 3 because since we had season 2 come to an end, now we got a new competitive season and everything, these two have been on an absolute tear. And I got some statistics for you guys watching from home. Since the Diamond Nationals, in tournaments that they have attended, World Tour tournaments that these two have attended, Alex has won 3 out of 4 men's CMX Weapons overall grand championships. That's hard to do. Men's CMX Weapons is an incredibly deep division. I should know better than anybody because I competed in it for years. And trying to win 3 out of 4 of those, obviously that's what I was always trying to do and was blessed to be able to do many times. Alex is doing it now, so I love to see him kind of taking that torch and running with it, getting those big wins. That's huge. And then Haley, in those 4 tournaments, which is Diamonds, AKA Warrior Cup, Compete Internationals, and then Ocean State Grand Nationals, all big events, has 5 overall grand championships in those 4 events. That means that at least once she got the double overall grand championship. That's not the only time she's gotten double overall grands. That was at Diamonds. She also got it at US Open. To move up into the adult division and immediately get double overall grands wins at 2 of the most prestigious tournaments in our sport, the US Open and Diamonds, that's kind of a big deal, guys, right? So these two are like as hot as you can get in the sport karate world right now. So my first question to both of you, we'll start with Alex, then go to Haley. What's clicking right now? What has got both of you kind of in this zone? Alex, what do you think it is?
I really think training's paying off, man. It's training and the experience. Going from the juniors to the adults is a whole other ballgame, but being able to compete and just figure out what's working for me, whether it's this kind of release or section, and just putting it all together and then being myself. I'm really figuring out what I can really do. And I know I got a lot more room to do more. So I'm figuring it out and I'm pretty stoked on the next couple of tournaments. But what's clicking is I'm just being myself. I'm really trusting myself that, hey, you can do these releases, you can do these combos. You train it, right? Just go out there and do it. So just believing in myself, what's been clicking for me.
Awesome. I love that. Perfect answer. Believe in yourself. There's no limit to what you can do, right? So that's what's clicking for Alex. Haley, what is it for you?
It's been a lot of trying new things and seeing what works. I feel like I kind of went into a slump this last year and a half-ish prior to COVID, and then kind of hit. But I just got into this routine where I was doing the same thing over and over again. And at a certain point, it wasn't working anymore. So it was a lot of reevaluation and seeing what I can do differently to help my game and kind of how I can be better each time I compete. Just in a lot of different ways, trying different training routines, incorporating other non-martial arts aspects into it, really finding great time management and the best use, thinking really quality over quantity. You could train 1 million hours, but not so good quality, and it's not going to get you anywhere. So really figuring out how I can maximize my time has helped me a lot, especially just with everything I have going on. And also just seeing how amazing and how much improvement everybody else has had really pushes me. So seeing how some of my competitors or just my students especially, seeing their progress really pushes me to be better kind of for them and to continue to inspire and mentor them. But to do that, I need to make sure I'm the best version of myself. So kind of having that mindset has really helped me level up a bit.
And we are off to a great start in this show. That is 2 perfect answers to kickstart the podcast. And I want to summarize that, Haley, by saying adjustments. And this is something that I feel like forms and weapons competitors in particular, Alex, I know you're both. Haley, I know you can be both. But let's just pretend we're forms and weapons for a second, right? Forms and weapons competitors always get a bad rap because, or maybe it's not a bad rap, but there's this reputation about forms and weapons competitors that you just go out and do your form. There's no strategy. You just go do your thing and whoever's the best wins, right? Not at all how it is. It's easy to see how adjustments get made in point fighting, especially in overall grands when you've got between rounds adjustments that can be made, adjustments made between divisions and open weight, things of that nature. That makes sense. But forms and weapons competitors make those adjustments not just from one division to the next, but also from tournament to tournament, from season to season. And that's what you're kind of getting at, Haley, by talking about, pre-COVID, I was in this kind of slump and I needed to reinvent myself a little bit. Going into the adult division, you made the appropriate adjustments. You changed your game just enough to still be Haley Glass, but be a better version of Haley Glass, going back to what Alex was saying about just being yourself, right? And that's what's allowed you to have all the success. So for all you fighters out there, forms and weapons competitors, we make a lot of adjustments too. One of these days, I got to get a lot of forms and weapons people on the show and just talk about like the adjustments and the strategy that goes into forms and weapons, because not everybody's like that. Like, I was somebody who always strategized and made adjustments and stuff like that, but not everybody's like that. There are forms and weapons competitors who just go do their form. You know what I mean? But anyway, I digress. So as we talk about these adjustments and strategy and what can help one competitor kind of get a leg up on another competitor, Alex, I want to pivot to you here, because as I watch that division, because that adult division is very, very deep in commas right now. Yourself, Rashad Eugene, Connor Chastain, Alex Riggs. There's others, and I'm not going to try to name everybody because I know I'd forget people if I did try to name everybody. But just those four right there, we've got top comma competitors in that men's CMX weapons division right now. And my theory about what sets you apart from the others is that you're stylistically different from everybody else. A lot of the other comma competitors in that ring, it's not that they're trick focused, but it's their cut combos are being used specifically at times to set up the tricks. And they've got good basics. I'm not saying that they don't have good basics, that they only trick. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the way that they choreograph their cuts at times looks like they're just cutting to set up the tricks. And where I think you set yourself apart, Alex, is that when you cut, you are cutting to cut. It looks like you are trying to cut people when you are cutting with your commas. The practical application is obvious, and then you flow into your tricks. And there's a difference between flowing into your tricks and using your cuts specifically to set up tricks. And Alex, I think you know what I'm getting at there. So speak to that a little bit. Is that intentional? Is that just kind of naturally how you wound up coming to be? Or is that something that you tried to choreograph in your forms intentionally?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. Because, there's only so much you can do with your weapons, right? A chop, a strike, a 7-cut with the commas, right? Maybe one of these here, but it goes back to one of the mentalities I was instilled in when I was younger. It's not what you do, it's how you do it, right? And I believe putting that into my forms by being different in setting up my strikes into my combinations, that's one thing it was a hard adjustment for me to make at first, because before I would do my striking combinations in a release and a pause, and then I would go into my tricks or whatever it is. But really establishing that flow makes me feel, one, a lot better, just makes it feel smoother. And I feel like I can stand out a little bit more, just a little bit in that sense, by being able to flow just through everything, right? Not being able to pause every single time. I feel that's just my style, hit some releases, flow into a trick pass, or strikes flowing into a release combination. It's a little different.
And when we talk about your style, I think that it reminds me of two people, and this is going to make sense, especially when we get to the film study part of this, because you were trained by one of these two people, right? Like your style, and anybody that watched Tyler Weaver can tell, like Alex Mancillas, Tyler Weaver, same style of commas. It's the same idea, right? But I think that you have found a way to make it your own. So I see the Tyler in your game, but I don't see you and think of Tyler. I see you and think of Alex, but I can still make the comparison, right? But then the sheer power that you put behind your cuts, which is really the difference in your division that I'm talking about. Again, when I talk about the comparisons between your cuts and your competitors' cuts, that is not a criticism of your competitors. I think all of your comma competitors that are in that ring are great, and they all have pretty good technique. I think that what sets you apart is the power. And in your power, to me, you cut like Rudy. Rudy Raynon always cut with such power, and that's what you have. Now, Alex, Rudy probably was a little bit cleaner than you. You got some work to do.
I was about to say, I still got some work to do, man. I still got some work to do.
From a sheer power perspective, That's what I see. I see the effort going into those cuts, right? So anyway, I'd love to hear other thoughts coming in from the comments. Anybody that watches that division, because that's like one of the best divisions to watch in all of sport karate, is the men's CMX weapons division. I'm interested to hear your thoughts there. And because that's kind of how I've been looking at that division right now. As a bow guy, I'd love to see some bow guys in that CMX division starting to step the game up a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, as long as somebody with Paul Mitchell on their back is winning, that's all I really care about, right, Alex?
That's right.
All right, so now we're going to shift to talking about your competitors, right? We've been talking about how deep it is. I want to give you a chance because, this is a sport of respect, right? Every time we step in the ring, yes, we want to win, but at the end of the day, we have the utmost respect for our competitors. So, Alex, this is kind of your opportunity to give your competitors some roses. Who are those top, 2 or 3 guys that when you're in the dojo, they're who you're training for from a forms and weapons perspective?
So I'll say the number one competitor, and this is going to sound probably, I'll go into competitors, but the number one competitor that I compete against or I'm training for is myself. That's number one. Right. That's number one. I got to be better than I was last if I want to continue this streak. Right. But I know we've had Dawson come up. Dawson's really, really awesome. Love competing against that guy. Jake, you got Connor with the combos as well. Rashad with his creativity. You never know what you're going to get, right, when he comes up. But at the end of the day, it's always about competing against the version I was last. Right. How can I be cleaner? How can I have more power? How can I sell this move more? Right. But those are just a few names I would say that I train for.
That's awesome. So, Alex, I noticed your mom actually just jumped in the comments saying that she's trying to get a hold of you. So, Alex, I'm going to have you. I'm actually going to take you off the stream for a second, but you'll still be here in the studio. So you go take care of that, and then we're going to switch over and talk to Haley for a little bit here. All right?
Cool.
All right, Haley, you and me now. So Alex is out of here, but that was awesome. And for those of you young competitors tuning into the show tonight, go back and rewatch that and pay attention to he had something specific about every one of his competitors that he respected and appreciated, right? With Rashad, it was his creativity, so on and so forth, right? And that's really the mentality that you should have about forms and weapons competition, right? You have to respect what your other competitors are best at in order to identify those strengths, train towards those strengths, and make yourself a stronger comparison in the eyes of the judges. So I thought that was a beautiful answer there by Alex. And now, Haley, we're going to talk about you kind of as you've made this transition into the adult division. You've mentioned kind of in general making those adjustments and kind of, doing those little things that helped you be successful. But a lot of people try to make those adjustments as they move to the adult division. And a lot of people are not as successful as quickly as you have been in the adult division. So I want you to tell us, how did you do it? Like specifically, what were some of those adjustments you were making?
Okay, so it was, a lot of it was like game plan strategy. And it's exactly what you were just talking about in terms of understanding, really dissecting what your competitors are great at and what your one-up on them kind of is. And so as a junior, a lot of my competition and like my thought process behind what could what strengths that I have over them, a lot of it was strength and performance for me and like kicks and basics. That was always what I used really to just stay clean, and that was my thing. A lot of my competitors were really great trickers, a little bit better than I was, I would say, and also really good with just weapon manipulation and all of that. So it was about finding what I was best at and then using that to my strength. So going into the adult division, I feel like my mindset kind of shifted because my competitors changed. It wasn't the same that I had in like the 16, 17 division. So going in, competing against Sammy, against Solange, against Noelle, Sarah Campbell, Kaylin Kowalski, like a lot of them kind of came up post-COVID. And then some like Sammy, who I've never competed against in the adult division. So really trying to figure out my one-ups and what I can get better at to push myself up a little bit more above them. And then understanding what they were great at. So, I think Sammy and I go head-to-head a lot. Just a fun little sweet rivalry between us, but I really looked at what she was great at, and she's amazing at a lot of things: performance, tricking, kicks. She's strong, so I had to sit back and just really figure out what I needed to change about my game and what needed adjustment. And for me, a lot of that was trying to figure out how to become a lot more creative. Because Sammy's, in my opinion, incredibly creative. And I felt like my basics just weren't going to cut it against all just the level changes and the dynamics of what she did. So I did a lot of studying. I, film study, which is what we're going to do a little bit later. I looked back at old videos and just tried to get ideas and think about new things I've never done before. And so that's what COVID was really great for, because it allowed me enough time to not have to worry about going out and competing and just figure out my new, Haley Glass style. And so I've really enjoyed that whole process, but that I think has helped me the best, as well as just, and I've mentioned this before, I think I mentioned it on the last podcast we did, incorporating some like weight training and nutritional stuff, like really just up my game as well and added on to it. So I think that's the biggest things.
That's awesome. And again, for those of you tuning in, it is identifying the strengths of your competitors, recognizing where you need to improve to meet those strengths, and then seeing kind of how the cards play out and then making adjustments from there, right? So Haley, you said it beautifully. You were known for your basics. You were a technically sound, very solid competitor that got you a ton of wins in the junior division. But you had the presence of mind to recognize that in the adult division, that's not going to cut it because, well, wait, look at Sammy. Sammy's got great basics too, so that's not going to be enough. I need something else. You up the creativity, you change your style a little bit. Next thing you know, you're able to get some of those wins. And I also see that Alex is ready to jump back in here. So we'll go ahead and throw Alex back into the stream, because this brings me to something that I've always been really interested in as a topic of discussion, because as my generational shift happened, where kind of the last generation of like the men's weapons competitors before myself and Reed and Cole and Tyler was Matt Emig and Kalman Choka, Mark Canonizato, Rudy Raynon, and that crew, right? And we're going to talk about some of those guys in a lot more depth coming up here shortly, right? But one thing that it's hard to say that I regretted, because I don't have any control over this, but one thing that, like, if I could travel back in time and change somehow, is I would have loved to have like just one tournament to get to go against those guys, because those were the guys that I watched growing up as they were in the 14, 17 division, and then they were adult competitors. And it would have been awesome to have the opportunity, but I never got the opportunity to share the mat in an individual division against any of those guys, right? And then we move on to this next generation where it was myself, Reed, Cole, Tyler, and then I was the one who wound up, kind of sticking around long enough. And I might still be back out there. I'm not saying I'm not going to, but anyway. And so like Alex, who had, been looking up from the 14, 17 division to me and Reed and Cole and Tyler and the adults, Alex actually got the chance to compete against me, which he and I have talked about it before. And it was super cool for us to have that, you know what I mean? So Haley, I want to talk to you about that a little bit. I mean, how special is that for you? Because for viewers tuning in, I'm just going to give brief context here, because you tune in, you're like, wait a minute, he's 24, Haley's like 18, right? They're like almost the same age. Like but no. Like when I won my second US Open, Haley was the green belt, underbelt grand champion. That was like tiny little Haley giving me the trophy, right? So there's a big, it's like sport karate competitors age in dog years. So there's like a bigger age gap than it seems, right? So given that perspective, like, Sammy and I were we were rivals in the junior division when boys and girls competed against each other, right? So Sammy and I are kind of on that same timeline. So Haley, you coming up, literally, you were a green belt when Sammy was on stage at US Open and winning titles. Just tell us a little bit about that opportunity to compete against one of the greats of the sport, one of these veterans.
There was definitely a lot of emotions that came into it the first time I got to compete against her, which was US Open last year. First year in the adult division, I knew she was in it, and she's been someone I've looked up to since I was small, just like you, Jackson. Seeing that division, I think it was, there was a good chunk of you guys who actually, made it to the Team Paul Mitchell and just stayed at the top of your game for quite some time. You were there, Danny, Sammy. So just knowing that she was part of the reason why I am who I am, and then to go and compete against her was just really surreal because when I was 7, I think, when I presented you with that award and I got to see her compete. Um, and she was like a celebrity to me. You all were. I was so nervous. I did not want to say hi, but my mom's like, go ask to take a picture. So just kind of realizing that, 10 years ago, she was someone who like I was scared to even talk to. And now I have the pleasure of not only competing against her, but now representing the same team like as her. It's quite the honor. And at the same token, although it was exciting, I was extremely nervous. I've never competed against her before, so come U.S. Open, my training, I was like, I don't know what I need to do to like go to match, her level. She was, someone I still saw as like up here while I was down here, just because of, where I came from and how amazing she is. So it was very nerve-wracking, exciting. Yeah, I was super happy to compete against her. And it definitely pushed me. I feel like if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have kind of made this little jump that I have in just my game. She continues to push me every tournament, so I know I can never just kind of take a chill pill and just wing it. I have to put in the work because I know she's doing the same. So I love that. We both help push each other now. It's a great thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's the reason I asked this question is that for any of the kids that are tuning in and watching this podcast, right? You kids probably look at the adult division right now and you see, for the boys, you look at Alex. For the girls, you look at Haley. You can be inspired by both, but I just go with it, okay, right? Is you look at them and you're like, I could never be at that level, right? Because I remember this is 2006, I was 8 years old, and looking at your Matt Immigs and your Lauren Carneys and thinking that I could never be that, right? And then that switch flip where I decided, no, I want to be that. Like, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but that's what I want. And then, like, there's the story where I looked at my dad and I was like, I'm going to be on that stage, I'm going to be on that team, and I'm going to win. And my dad laughed at me, right? But ultimately, it wound up happening, right? And so the story here is same thing for Haley. It was the same thing for me. It was the same thing for Alex. Is every single competitor, whoever gets on that stage on this team and wins, was once that competitor that was looking at those people saying, man, wouldn't that be cool? Can I ever be that good? I'll never be that good. One day we were all that same kid, right? So that the fact that is the way sport karate works and how literally anybody can be like a come from nothing and then like become, a champion in this sport is one of the coolest things in the world. So again, I could geek out about that because like it's such an inspiring thing, but I digress because we got to keep this podcast to like relatively close to an hour. So now I want to shift gears and maybe get a little bit more controversial with everybody. So for those of you tuning in live, feel free to drop this stuff down in the comments because I have an opinion about this. And Haley, as a top competitor in the women's division who wins all the time, so we know that you're not going to have a bias one way or the other because you're already winning, right? How do you feel about the way that the overall grand championships are arranged right now, where on the men's side, traditional and CMX, they get their own separate overall grand championship with the same prize money, whereas in the women's division, y'all have to clump everything together. Traditional and CMX is one weapons grand championship, one forms grand championship. Just your general thoughts on that, Haley.
I think it's bogus. I hate that for for the women's division. And every time I just Jake has been on, I think, for trad weapons for the last few tournaments, and so we'll always talk. And I'm like, this is so not fair because we don't have the separation, and I think we should. Traditional, in my opinion, is so much different than CMX, and so to put them together, like on a regular basis for an overall, I don't think is fair. You look at the men's divisions, and you look at someone like Mason Stoll, who's been really killing it anytime he competes in the trad, and then you have your CMX forms competitors. You have Salif, you have Dawson. In my opinion, you can't judge those against each other. They're very different. There's a lot of technicality with the traditional that is so much different than it is with creative and CMXs. So with that being said, I think the whole idea of highlighting, just traditional and just CMX is a great thing. And I don't think it's fair that the women who, in my opinion, are just as great, dedicate just as much time, as much training, as much effort into these things, and don't get that recognition for it. I mean, Gabrielle's a prime example. She is the top traditional women's forms competitor there is right now. She does, her Korean, she's Japanese, and she's great at all of it. And then me, I'm at, the top of my game with my CMX, and not to put us both together, I don't think is okay. Like, she should have, or the women's traditional should have their own shot, women's CMX, and then it also gets a chance to those who do more than one to have more chances at like an overall. So for me, since I do trad weapons and CMX weapons, that would then give me an opportunity to showcase what I do with my trad as well as my CMX. Some people watching might think, oh, she just does CMX, but that's not true. I do more than one. And you can clearly see that with the men. Those, for example, I just use Jake because he's the first person that comes to mind when he's in his trad weapons overall and then CMX weapons overall. You could see his diversity and how he's great at both. But with the women, we don't get that opportunity to shine like that when we're doing the same things. And then money too. Like, I don't want to get into it, but the fact that we have less, less money, like, for us to win is sucks. I see the extra, 500 for trad forms and trad weapons for the men's, and I'm like, that is not fair. I have a car payment, like, that could really help. but hopefully that'll change, and somehow, some way, we'll get the recognition I think we deserve. But yeah, that's my opinion on the whole situation.
So first and foremost, round of applause for Haley. That was like all of like the major points for discussion. And I've got 2 points that I want to make on this, and then we'll kind of move on. And Alex, I know you've been keeping your mouth shut for a while. We'll let you chime in too. But I've got 2 points that I want to make here, one of which people might try to burn me at the stake for, but we'll get there, right? So here's my first thing. My first thing is, above all else, there should be equality between the two sides, right? Like, I personally, and this might surprise people because they're like, wait, like, you're Gabrielle's fiance. I'm like, no. I don't really care if they put the women together and put the men together, right? Or if they separate the women to make it like the men's is currently. I don't really care which one you do personally, as long as it's consistent. There's no reason that the men can have theirs split and the women have to have theirs together. Pick the way that you want to do it, and then do it the same on both sides, right? So that's my first thing, is that there's zero reason that you can make as to why it should be different on both sides, right? So this is not Jackson saying like traditional should have more chances to win overalls because I love Gabrielle. But no, I don't really care which way you do it. It should be equal either way, right? My second point, and this is the one that I might get burned at the stake for, right? But hear me out, people, right? I agree with you 100%, Haley. It's apples and oranges when you are comparing a traditional form or a traditional weapon to a CMX form or a CMX weapon. 100% on the same page with that, right? But there will be people who think, well, it's called an overall grand championship. So shouldn't it be from multiple different disciplines? Well, why don't you make the disciplines more comparable? Still make it an overall grand championship, but have it be a traditional overall grand championship, where you have the weapons against the forms. Like, how many regional tournaments have we been to where the overall grand is everybody against everybody, weapons, forms, doesn't matter. And then same thing on the CMX side. And then people, like, there's people watching at home right now. They're like, why should I be mad about that, right? But hear me out. Listen to the matchups that you would get. If you look at the men's side, you can't tell me that Mason Stowell's traditional kata against Jake's traditional bow form is not more exciting than seeing Mason go up against a Danny Etkin or a Shaquan Parson in forms, or seeing Jake go up against an Alex Mancillas or a Connor Chastain or a Dawson Holt or whoever in CMX weapons, right? Because instead of apples to oranges, you get traditional versus traditional. And I think that Jake Presley and Mason Stowell weapons versus forms would be a very closely contested series, right? Like, if this is basketball, that's going 7 games, right? Like, that is an excellent matchup, right? And then over on the women's side, you get the same thing, right? Instead of Haley's CMX form and Sammy's CMX form against Gabrielle's traditional form, maybe you get Haley's sword form, which Haley finally gets a chance to showcase because there's now a place for that, right, against Gabrielle's traditional form. And that, much like the Mason versus Jake, I think that is a very closely contested, great division, right? And so you don't have these panels of judges anymore where a lot of times when I go to a night show, I can look at a panel and be like, traditional is going to win a lot tonight, or CMX is going to win a lot tonight, because different judges have different preferences between CMX and traditional, and they're human. This is not a judge criticism. This is a systemic criticism, a systematic criticism of how we can try to better arrange this to make it more fair for the competitors, get more equal showcasing of both traditional and CMX disciplines, because we do have to try to preserve the traditional aspects of this sport. And at the end of the day, make it fair across the board for everybody. Everybody has a chance to win. The matchups make sense. You're not comparing apples to oranges anymore. And I'm stepping off. I'm getting lower. I'm off my soapbox now, okay? But there's Jackson's idea for how you could fix this, right? Is it a perfect idea? No, I know it's not perfect. But I think it's something that at least deserves discussion, right? Moving on. Alex, you've been very patient. Thank you. We're now going to shift back to Alex. And let's see. Oh, I know what we got to talk about with you. We've talked about your forms and weapons already. We got to talk about your fights, because you've been fighting very well recently, right? We rewind to Diamonds. You had a close fight with Avery Plowden. Most people who fight with Avery Plowden, it's not very close. So you had a close fight with Avery, right? Ocean States, I thought that you fought D-Stacks very, very well, right? That match slipped away from you a little bit right there at the very end, but you had a lead on him at one point, right? So tell me a little bit, talk about the successes there, right? Being in these fights with some of the best point fighters in the world and looking good, right? But then also, what are those adjustments that take it from Alex, you fought great, man, to Alex, you beat him, right? So both sides of that, the good, and then where do you think you can continue to grow?
So yeah, what's gotten me to where I'm at right now, my game one, there's been a lot of mentoring and coaching I've got from Damon recently, right? It's all about trusting yourself and a distance game. As Coach Chris, as soon as I look at him, he does this, I know. See, she knows too. Yeah, I do this, or he does that, and it's a distance game for me right now, right? But I've been feeling more and more comfortable each and every time, and that's just experience. You know, it's the adult fighting division. It's not easy, right? But I know once I get my rhythm going, which I'm feeling very, very close to it, there are going to be some overall grands coming my way on both ends, weapons and fighting. So, and as far as fighting Avery, you know, I've looked up to Avery, right? Kind of the same case with forms and weapons. I was a junior, and then sharing the ring with him was really, really cool. And then fighting Darren. Darren and I don't know if you know, you probably might remember, we've had close fights as juniors all the time. Our fights were always close. So when I saw Darren and I first fight, I was like, yes, let's go. It's gonna be. I already knew it's gonna be loud in there, right? And I feed off energy. That's one of my things. But yeah, a few things that I know I can make is just trusting myself a little more, putting those extra reps. Just as Coach says, extra work. Just watch my distance. That's my distance game. That's it. But I'm feeling very, very excited, and I'm looking forward for battle. Looking to take some overalls.
Love to hear it, my man. And that's another thing for those of you watching from home, the visual, right? Also knowing how to get there, work on the distance, listen to Coach Damon, listen to Coach Damon, listen to Coach Damon. I'll say that a couple more times, right? But then also not only knowing how to get there, but knowing where you're going to go, right? Understanding that perspective of, no, I just don't want to win this fight or win that fight. I want to go win the overall grand. When we show up to a tournament, that is the goal. The goal is to leave with every overall grand that you are capable of winning, right? So, Alex, I love to hear that from you, not only the vision aspect, but also understanding how you can get to that point. That's a valuable, subtle piece of information that I want people to pick up on. And while we're giving out advice here, right, some of the best advice that both of you can give is how to juggle all this, right? Because I got this question for years. Haley, I was in your shoes, right? Sport karate competitor, traveling, getting wins, teaching, doing all that stuff. I was a pre-med student myself, right? And then, Haley, I know you're pre-med. You've also been thinking pre-PT. I'll let you talk a little bit about kind of what you think your future holds, right? Because at the end of your freshman year, you're not supposed to know yet. It's okay, right? But, still taking the classes necessary so that if you decide you want to go that route, you're able to go that route. And those are extremely difficult classes, right? And then Alex, I could make a laundry list of all the things that you do, right? Whether it's taking some college courses, being an Orange Theory fitness coach, helping your mom run the school. Like, you've got so many things that you're in charge of. You also coach a team yourself, right? And I'll let you talk about that a little bit. But we'll start with Haley on this one and then go to Alex. What is your secret personally to being able to balance it at all? For those kids that are like in high school and they've got all this homework and AP exams and they're like, how am I going to do this and do karate, right? What is your advice to that competitor?
There's a list of things that I think I could say, but one that has really helped me, and I feel like it's such a cliche, but once you get the hang of it, oh my gosh, it makes it all possible, because you think about all these things. And there are times, and Alex knows this, because there are times where we'll be on the phone and I'm just like, I don't understand how in the world I'm going to get all the things I need to get done. But, you have to do it. So there's a lot that we all juggle, and a lot of, that people don't know about. And so that kind of plays a factor into just a little bit of doubt that could come, or just, thinking, how am I going to make it possible? And for me, once I got the grip of really looking at my time management and how I can best use my 24 hours of a day, really just helped me out. I mentioned earlier about training, about quality over quantity. Being a college student in these pre-health courses and trying to make sure I'm maintaining, my teaching, my private lessons, my students back in Orlando, making trips to Orlando quite frequently to get to work with them in person, trying to do all these things. A lot of times where I used to maybe spend 2 hours at the karate school, I have about 45 minutes of space. And it's like, well, how can I best use this time? So really planning out exactly, my training routines, what time I would study, breaks for lunch, planning in advance how I would, spend each day has really helped me out. So if you're trying to juggle a ton of things, it's not easy. You're gonna mess up. I mess up all the time, and it's frustrating. Just know that, one, you're human, but if you can schedule out your week and just really evaluate and write down things you got to do, that also helps me out, writing stuff out. Because if I don't, I will forget, and then I get upset about it. But if I write it down, like, on Sundays, I'll kind of take a look at, what do I have to do this week? What days do I have access to a karate school? What days do I not have access to a karate school? What am I going to do for those times where I don't have mat space, to still try my best to be ready for all the tournaments I have coming up? Just that kind of whole process has been, well, one, a learning process, because when I first kind of came to college and really got adjusted and understood how crazy everything always is, I slacked a little bit. Like, sometimes I would spend too much time at the gym or at the karate school, and then I would take a test and I'm like, had I studied more for this one, the turnout may have been different. But, as time kind of went on, I figured out my routine. And like I've said before, it's a lot of trial and error, and understanding that it's okay to mess up, but learn from it and figure out how you can do things a little bit differently to prevent it from happening in the future. And that's kind of what has helped me a ton this past year, at least.
Beautifully said. I'm going to foot stomp one thing for everybody. Make a list. Make a list. Time management was like the number one common theme throughout everything Haley was just saying, right? Make a list. This is the Jackson Rudolph advice for time management, right? Every day when I wake up in the morning, first thing that I do is I roll over, grab my phone, stop the alarm, and I pull up my notes and I look at the to-do list from last night. That's the stuff that didn't quite get done that needs to get done first. And then I make a list of the extra things that need to get done that day, right? Rinse and repeat. When you hold yourself accountable by having a list, it makes it so much easier to actually get everything done, because you can check this off, check that off. Anyway, right? I won't go on about that because it's simple. Make a list, right? I will say one more thing about Haley, though, for everybody that's tuning in and doesn't know Haley, right? Haley is at University of Florida, which med student Jackson is going to say is one of the most widely respected pre-med programs in the country. University of Florida does a really, really good job of training good candidates for medical school or really any health profession for that matter. So the program that Haley is in a great program. It's not like she's just kind of like, doing something and like, oh, I'm going to do this one day. No. Like Haley is actually doing it. It's at a prestigious program, and what she's doing is very difficult. So shout out to you, Haley. Want to make sure everybody was aware of the full extent of what you're doing right now. Now, Alex, right? Yours is like a complete juggling act, right? Because you got all kinds of different things going on. So I'll let you tell us first a little bit about kind of what all your different responsibilities are, and then your secrets to how you manage it.
So yeah, a few of my responsibilities is kind of be here at the karate school with my mom run classes, teach private lessons online to my students, teach privates here at the dojo. I'm also an Orange Theory fitness coach, got online courses to do for school, and then I train. And then also I got to take care of my fur babies at home, my dogs. So, I mean, balancing all of that, it's been very tough for me recently, just because it's been a little overwhelming. Just because we got new stuff going to school, new stuff at Orange Theory. And one thing I've learned, is, like Haley mentioned, is write stuff down, right? That's one thing I've gotten better at. Like I go back, I'm like, did I forget something? And before I wouldn't write stuff down, just kind of go off the top of my head. So I would, but like, now that I have written it down, go back and look, I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do this. I get it done, right? It's kind of a little relief for me, right? But getting stuff done, and then also being okay with the fact that sometimes, like Haley also mentions, we're gonna mess up. Like we do so much. Like nobody's perfect, right? Like getting in late for mine was getting in late from tournaments at night, and then waking up early to go work, right? That's tough. And then just managing it, because my thing is I have to be at different places a lot throughout my day. Right. But the easiest advice to simplify is, like you said, write it down, go one thing at a time. And because at the end of the day, it has to get done, right? It's going to get done somehow. So just take it one step at a time, one day at a time. That's my thing. And just kind of take a breath, just focus, right? That's my spiel, one thing at a time and just focus.
That's great advice. And I'm going to peel back the curtain on Alex a little bit, because I have stayed with Alex before. And so I have an understanding of how Alex balances it all. One of Alex's best kept secrets is insomnia. He like doesn't sleep at all. Like I've literally been with this dude till like, cause when we're there for a weekend or whatever, we don't get much time to hang out. Right. So we'll, be up at like 4 a.m. And the next thing I know, Alex is like, yeah, I got to wake up in like 45 minutes to go work my Orange Theory shift. I'm like, excuse me? Like you're going to sleep for like half an hour? Like that's not okay. But anyway, so and I know that's not an every night thing, but just to give everybody some perspective.
Hey man, it's just, we're making the most out of this time, Jackson, making the most out of this time, man.
Who's got time for sleep? Right now, med student Jackson is coming back and telling you that sleep is very important for your health. Don't not sleep. That's not going to help you. I digress. Moving on. I've got to pull up my notes here, because that was one really big topic I wanted to make sure that we hit on. This might be my favorite question of the whole show, which maybe makes this sound like a big deal, right? But you guys are in a unique position right now where, tournament-wise, Alex, you've been on the team for quite an extended period of time now, but there was COVID, right? So you really haven't gotten very many tournaments under your belt as a Team Paul Mitchell member, right? Haley, you're still in your first kind of full season on the team. So you're both in relatively new positions on the team, but we just recruited a whole bunch of young talent to Team Paul Mitchell, right? Some of them pretty close to you in age, but others quite a bit younger, right? And so it puts you in kind of this unique position of, you guys are still kind of new, but now you're also in this kind of like role model position for some of these new guys and gals on the team. And I just want you guys to talk about that a little bit, because that was a position that I kind of found myself in, because I got put on the team when I was 14, and a whole bunch of people retired like right after I got on the team. Like Kalman was retired, and Matt retired, and Caitlin retired, and a lot of the fighters retired. And the next thing I knew, it was me. And then 6 months later, it was me and then new people. And I was like, oh, hello, I'm the guy that's been here. That's weird. And I'm 15, right? So I want you guys to both speak about that a little bit. Haley, we'll start with you.
So yeah, the dynamic has definitely changed from when I first got on, which has been less than a year. So it's kind of like you were saying, it's it's like a strange kind of in between where I'm like, I still feel like the rookie, but at the same time, now I'm like not the rookie because I've been on for a little while. Um, but before we kind of got this chunk of really great talent, as you said, there was maybe 3 or 4 of us who were consistently competing. So the feel of the team was a bit different when I first got on because it felt a lot more individualized because we didn't have that many players. I mean, it was a team, a very, very small one. So we'd all kind of do our own thing and then come together maybe for a dinner or something. But now getting to kind of, now that we have a bigger team, almost setting the tone or like setting the pace of, I feel like what it should feel like moving forward has been really nice. For example, this was in California. So before we got these 6 new competitors, you had mentioned you, myself, Jake, and Alex went out to Denny's, and you're like, man, I love team dinners. Even though our team is super small, like this is a team dinner, and this is something that should happen every tournament. And so that really stuck with me because I'm like, things like that are so valuable because we do what we do on the mats. We're teammates, but a lot of us don't live in close proximity to each other to train. So you kind of go out to a tournament and you do your own thing. But the simple, let's get together and have lunch or have dinner, or like let's chill the Thursday night before, just kind of hang out and getting to bond and know my teammates has been really exciting. And so I think kind of just, popping a question in the group chat once we have, 10 competitors being like, hey, do y'all want to go get lunch? Let's kind of spend some time together. That's almost, in my opinion, setting a tone, setting a pace to what it should be moving forward. And I think we did that really well at Ocean State. So it felt amazing. I had a few people come up to me and say, "You're normally happy, but you seem like really excited this tournament for some reason." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Like I am, but it's because I feel like we really have a nice team, a good dynamic going on." So I'm doing my best to kind of make sure that we are sticking together and we don't just kind of separate and go our own ways. Like we're a team for a reason. We support each other. We get to know each other, know the simple things, the non-karate related things, and understand how we can best be there for each other in the karate setting and just in life and become lifelong friends and build those memories for years. So it's kind of been it for me.
Beautifully said once again, Haley. I've got some other thoughts that I want to share on that. I want to make sure that we get over to Alex as well here. But I love what you said about like that excitement that you had, right? Because, and you guys aren't going to say this, but I'm going to say this because I don't. Right? But there were people, right? And I pay attention to social media. I got a podcast. I see the things people are saying. And there were people that several months ago were like, Paul Mitchell's not what it used to be. Paul Mitchell might be done. No. Okay, for everybody tuning into this podcast, 3 things are certain in life: death, taxes, and Team Paul Mitchell win an overall grand championship, right? Team Paul Mitchell is back. Team Paul Mitchell is as good as we've ever been, and we're going to keep growing and getting better. That's all I got to say. Alex, your turn.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal and kind of starting with the role model kind of position or like being the one that's been on the team a little bit longer, I would say, right? A little bit interesting for me because I got on at an awkward time, like, all right, I got on the team, and then COVID's like, you got to put it on hold for a little bit. And I was like, all right. So, no, like getting everybody together for dinners and I think with us, like everybody just clicked. It was really cool. Like we all just clicked. We all kind of already knew each other already. So coming out together as a team, I told Haley, I was like, this is a really it's an amazing feeling. I love it. And to be able to kind of have that position of, I guess, them kind of looking up to us in a way because we're the ones that have been on the team a little bit longer. I talked to Coach Dane about it, something like that earlier during the week. I said, I love it. I said, if I can help this team grow, if I can help them become better versions of themselves so it betters the whole team, I'm down for it, man. And I'm willing to lead and help this team. So I'm super excited for the future. And Ocean States was just a little taste, a little drop of the sauce, man. Little drop. Just wait until Battle US Open. We're taking everything, man. So I'm super hyped. But yeah. I think that was there a second part to the question? I think
No, you're good.
No, okay.
was perfect. You got my
Yeah.
blood pressure just high enough. That was perfect.
Hey man, don't get me started, Jackson. You know me. Very
That's
motivational.
the thing. That's
Retail.
the thing. That's the thing that as I look at it, right? The camaraderie that I felt amongst this team at Ocean States was as good, if not better, than what I ever felt it as in the 10 years that I spent on the team prior, right? Like the camaraderie and the togetherness that this current team has is unlike anything that really I've seen before, not just on our team, but on any team, right? Like the togetherness that this Paul Mitchell squad has and will continue to have is in ways unprecedented, right? And it's something that Paul Mitchell in particular always has to be aware of because there's a lot of really good players on the team. And in any professional sport, when you have a lot of really good players, well, really good players typically have differing opinions and, right? They compete against each other. And so sometimes when you run a very high level team, there are delicate things, right? But this team does not have that. This team is together. Like everybody is invested in each other's success. And it's truly special to see it all happen and work together. And I'm so excited to continue to be a part of that and watch that and see you guys grow as competitors and lift each other up. It's something that's so inspiring to me that I hope that we can continue to carry on for another 35 years, right? And I think that's the great thing about being on Paul Mitchell, right? Is that despite everybody that makes this team being so skilled and so talented, you go back 10 years and ask the guys on the team at that time what some of their best memories are. You go back 20 years, ask the same question, 30 years, ask the same question. The answer is not any time that they won team fighting or, they all won overall grands. It was, hey, y'all remember that time we went to Denny's? You know what I mean? Like that's always like the favorite stories. But anyway, that's just a really cool kind of special part of this team right now. And really something that Paul Mitchell has had many iterations of that I think is really special for us to just appreciate and notice on the show here. So now we're going to move on to another segment of the show, and we're going to try to make this relatively quick because I know we're starting to run a little long here. But every week we've got a history highlight here on the Jackson Rudolph Podcast. So we got two quick things that we're going to do for our history highlight. Since both of you are comma competitors, we're going to have a comma focused history highlight here tonight. We're going to start with a discussion. This is phase one, talking about our top 5 comma competitors of all time. I talked about this when Rashad Eugene was on the show because he, of course, is also a comma competitor and a double boat competitor and a triple boat and broom and everything. But anyways,
everything.
Right? Exactly. So we talked about it with him. I'm going to be a little bit more definitive in my top 5 this time, which I'm not normally. I'm normally a little bit more political, but I'm going to be more definitive this time because I like my rankings. And I want to start with what you guys' top 5s are, and then we'll do a little film study to close things out here. So for our history highlight this week, Haley, we'll start with you ladies first. I think I pointed at Alex. Haley? Yeah. Yeah, it's all backwards with the camera and everything. But Haley, give us your top 5 comma competitors of all time. Can be in order, can be reverse order, can be no order. Totally up to you.
Okay, this will definitely be no order because I like I can rank them. I'm trying to think. Okay, my top 5 would be Rudy Reynon, very, very inspired by him. John Valera, Cole Presley has always been one of my favorites. Mark Canonizato, I feel like that's a given. He was my instructor. And then also someone who really inspired me and I wish was still around a bit, Michaela Johnson. She was one of my favorites. Kind of got to train with her one time. And I love what she does. So she was great.
That's a solid top 5. That's hard to argue. I like it. Alex, your turn.
I'm also going to go in no order here, okay? But I have to go with John Valera, Mark Canonizato, Mackenzie. She's really awesome. Rudy, and then of course who started me and kind of mentored me in the comments, Tyler.
Okay, so those are both really good top fives. By the way, those of you in the comments, definitely drop your top fives down below. And I'll give mine. And mine is in ways kind of a hybrid of you guys', right? And I'll go in order just to make it interesting, right? And I've gone on record saying my number one before, so this won't be surprising. Rudy Raynon is my comma goat, right? Just the style that he had, he changed commas into what we see today, right? Valera was awesome. Valera taught Rudy, right? And so, Valera is my number two, right? You could very easily argue that Valera is the number one, right? But Valera had other really good comma guys in his era, like Mike Chat, elephant in the room here, right? And, Rudy, when Rudy was in his prime, was the comma guy. Like Rudy, and when he was in the juniors, because when he was in the juniors, Mark Canonizato was already in the adult division, right? And then by the time that Rudy went to the adults, Mark was doing sword, right? And so like Rudy kind of from the time he was like 15 or 16 was the comma guy, right? And just the way that he helped evolve commas, that's why I have Rudy at one. And then obviously like John Valera, like duh. If he's not one, he's two, right? So that's my one and two. My three, this is where I cheat a little bit. So I have a tie for three, which is 3 and 4, and then I have a tie for 5, which I know is totally cheating, but that's the way I did it. It's my show. I do what I want. So tie for 3 is Mackenzie and Michaela. And the reason that I tie them for 3 is that Mackenzie had the numbers. Mackenzie had the wins, like the wins that Mackenzie was able to rack up. She was so clean and so technically sound and so precise. So that's why Kenzie's there. Nobody's going to argue with that. And then Michaela didn't stick around enough, Haley, kind of like you alluded to rack up those kind of numbers, but won majors, won the U.S. Open. She has a Warrior Cup. She beat me to get it. Well, I dropped, but she still beat me. But anyway. So Michaela's got a Warrior Cup, right? And Michaela innovated so many of the comma releases that people do today, and people don't realize that it was Michaela, right? Like throwing the comma under the legs, throwing the comma from around the back, kind of spinning one comma on the other, like a grip on grip, right? I'm not talking about the blade on grip. That's a Cole Presley thing. But grip on grip spinning, that was Michaela, right? So there's more behind that. Like when she throws it from behind her back, comma moves this way, 360 spin catch. That was Michaela, right? Like so many of the releases that people still use today, a decade later, were Michaela. And when you have that type of a cultural impact, you're in the top 5, right? And then my tie for 5 is 2 guys that I competed against, so I'm totally biased. And when you say Mark Canonizato, it's like, man, Mark Canonizato could totally be up here too. So I almost want to put Mark at 4 and then have a tie for. But anyway, so my other tie is I'm gonna go with Cole and Tyler, right? And with Cole and Tyler, it's kind of a similar thing, right? Tyler had the numbers, had all kinds of wins, very decorated career, was on Oprah, which is a big deal, right? Perfect 10s at the Waco World Championships in weapons. And then Cole and all the things that he innovated, right? That's what Cole was most known for, was for innovating a lot of common tricks, right? And obviously me sharing the mat with those guys, I knew firsthand how good they both were, right? And then it pains me to like not have a guy like Austin Crane, because I love Austin Crane. But anyway, my honorable mentions. But there's my top 5, subject to change. When I come back on the show next week, I might change it. But I like where that's at right now. Also got to mention Kevin Thompson. We typically think about CMX commas when we do this. And yes, Kevin did CMX commas too, just not the CMX commas that we think of today. So it's kind of not fair to put him in this discussion, but he belongs in it. And by the way, when you're the all-time GOAT, people just understand that you're the all-time GOAT, right? So shout out Kevin Thompson, because you can't talk about commas without talking about him. You can't really talk about anything in sport karate without talking about him. Anyway, so there's the first half of our history highlight. Once again, drop those top 5s down in the comments below. Interested to see what our audience has to say. And now we're going to bring the show to a close with one of everybody's favorite features on the Jackson Rudolph Podcast. And we're going to start bringing it back more and more consistently because of the great feedback we get on it. And that's film study, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click around on some buttons here, and we are going to do a little film study of some comma competitors. All right, so here we go, pulling up my little private playlist here. Let's go ahead and click on Tyler, and let's go ahead and get that muted. Oh, wait, we skipped to Mackenzie. See, I just need to talk. I need to hire a tech guy, right? Oh, and this is great. We get a nice adult beverage commercial, so we're gonna ignore that. And here we go. Okay. And let me switch back over here and make sure. Okay, this looks good. We're set. Excuse me for my idiotic methods of using technology. But we're here and we're good. And so now we're going to check out. This is Tyler Weaver, Men's Weapons Finals, Compete Internationals 2015. Shout out sportmartialarts.com for sharing this with us. And I'm going to kind of give the floor to you guys. People hear me commentate all the time. So I'm just going to let you guys talk a little bit about this performance. A little bit of context. 2015 was before I moved up into the adult division. So this would have been like the big year where it was Reed and Tyler in weapons against each other all the time, them kind of always battling it out. You guys take it away.
From the beginning, he's already establishing that presence being so intense.
Yeah, I was just very strong. I love how he goes right. You know, we always see competitors go for a big pause before a combo. He just went right into it.
Yeah.
And notice this is creative weapons too. So I was
about to say
the little knee spins and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was about to say he started differently as well. Bring a little nunchuck vibe to that.
Always.
This is a little behind the scenes. So I was never, and Tyler knows this, but I was never like a huge fan of that section because like every time he would come off stage, his hands were like all cut up and bleeding from like where he would do that combo. But I give him credit for the creativity of it, right? Like in order to be successful at the highest level, you got to think outside the box and you got to just try some stuff. And Tyler won some overalls using that combo, right? So obviously you can't knock it if it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that is a little bit of a funny story. How there were times that Tyler would do that and then he would come off stage and like, my knuckles. And it's like, well, of course, bro. You just used your combos as nunchucks.
It is cool because now we've seen like different variations of just that like idea. And kind of where people have taken it, which is always nice to see. Woo! Flare kick, that was clean.
I was about to say, being somebody under the Mark Canonizato tree, you better know a thing or two about a flare kick, right?
Yeah.
That's the signature. And so now we will pivot here to Mackenzie Emery. And part of the reason that I picked some of these, obviously they came up in our discussions, but this is also part of the lineage that specifically Alex is a part of, because Rudy not only trained Tyler and Mackenzie, right? And obviously Tyler had a big part in kind of inspiring Alex's game. So that lineage actually goes back pretty deep. Alex to Tyler, Kenzie in that mix as well, then to Rudy, and then back to John Valera. I believe Jimmy Pham is in that mix somewhere as well, but anyway. And there's more comma competitors than that. But here is Mackenzie Emery. So Haley, you were kind of the comma person to compete against Sammy Smith that kind of came up and kind of took the role that Kenzie had in this division. So just as you watch this form, what were some of the things that for Haley as a young comma competitor inspired you?
She has such a clean style to her. It's very like just everything she does is technically sound. Her kicks are really clean. She shows flexibility and just the movement she does is really different. She's never really going in one direction like the whole time. She's always switching up the pace, the tempo, going from moves that are like up higher to lower. And then also having some really innovative tosses. So overall, she's just, in my opinion, great at everything. So
that's awesome. And I think that's one thing that did stand out about Kenzie and her game is how well-rounded she was. Like every aspect of CMX, she was good at, right? She had good stances. She had good extension of her cuts and her empty hand techniques. She was a great tricker. At one point, many people would have called her the best female tricker on the planet, right? As we get another advertisement here. So, and then also Kenzie competed in traditional form. She trained with Scott Wu in traditional form. She did traditional sword as well. Another parallel to Haley, which I think is like the weirdest thing, that like how many similarities there are between the two of you. But anyway. So here's Rudy, right? Alex, we'll let you talk a little bit about Rudy. What do you see here? By the way, Rudy in white gi top, another level. But anyway, Alex, go ahead.
I was about to say I had some inspiration on rocking the white gi top this past U.S. Open. Mix it up with the white gi top and black pants. But he's just so clean, man. I noticed his cuts come more outwards, like towards the front too, which makes him cleaner. He goes more of a high to a lower level, rather than just coming across. That was a clean move.
I love how you got
And then I noticed here too in this form, it was more of a lot of finger rolls. There wasn't many releases. There was a lot of variations of finger rolls or hand rolls that he put all together, which I thought was really dope.
Well, and that's one thing that I was always impressed with Rudy as well.
That was sick.
Was that Rudy really never did releases. I don't know if Rudy ever let go of his commas, his forms. And he was competing in a very difficult era in that men's weapons division with Cowman and Matt and Mark. And all those guys were doing, well, Cowman and Matt especially were doing big releases. And then Mark started to add some releases towards the end of his career. And so Rudy going at those guys just with complex finger rolls and being able to hold his own is ridiculously impressive. And then I love what you bring up, Alex, about how his cuts go wider than what, like, if you didn't, you would say, like, his cuts are too wide, right? But this is something great competitors do where you can bend a little of what is technically sound to give it your own style if it adds to the performance. So Rudy had markedly wide 7 cuts, but it made them bigger and more powerful. The same way that Matt Emig and his chop punches often had a little bit of an upward angle to them, right? Mm-hmm. Technically, you should be straight off the shoulder, but Matt always kind of did his at a little bit of a higher angle, and it made it more Matt. It helped it stand out and be better. And so now we throw it back to the Charlie Lee Nationals 2006. This is the year that I started traveling NASCA, and we have the iconic purple straight-up gi and Mark Canonizato. Obviously, Haley, a student of Will Canonizato, Mark's dad, a product of the iconic Florida Sport Martial Arts Academy. Talk us through this form.
So first, I mean, I love the speed. You know, a lot of intros tend to be slow, but he was always quick and doing very fast movements. And you see that here. His spins are just insane. Pass through while he did that 540. If y'all saw me compete at Ocean States, I had a little bit of that action in my form. But you see how he just turns to the back to using all his directions, moving to the back, just really making use of all his space. You know, he didn't really follow that typical format that we tend to see a lot. So he was, you know, unique in that way. And, oh, my gosh, the height of that kick, always beautiful. There you go. His signature B-twist round and side kick. It's a prime example of using your strengths to your advantage. He was amazing at kicks, and you saw that in almost every single trick or just – He really made use of that. You see the side kick, you see the 540s, the B-twist round, the flash kick. He was definitely a kicker, and so one of the best to do it, in my opinion. But
absolutely. He's one of the best to do it in everybody's opinion, right? I mean, he's Mark Canonizato. What more can you say? And one thing I loved about him was how effortless his tricking was. Like, he floated through the air, and it was so different from anybody else. It kind of at times reminded me of like an Anish Sherfa in the way that he tricks, but Mark's was like cleaner in ways, you know what I mean? But anyway, so here's John Valera, the guy who's like so responsible for all of the innovation that would be to come in commas.
It's just speed.
Oh yeah, I mean that was the thing that separated JV from the pack, is he was so fast. And then I love like the little ISO manipulation there, right? That's awesome. We got it.
I was about to say one thing that stood out from you can tell from like John to Rudy to Mark is just their speed and how their use of the ring, and it's like constant movement. Like there's not one time to where they're just there, which I think is very, very unique. I think that's you know, it makes you not just stay there and watch it for like 10 seconds and say you're like, oh, over here, now over here, oh, up, down. Like, you know what I mean? And that's something I think you need to have in your form, right? Because if you just stay in one spot, you know,
it's very unpredictable. Like you watch these forms and you never know what they're gonna do next. And I feel like now we've gotten to a point where a lot of forums have kind of taken the same format, and so you watch it and you know see the slight differences, but ultimately you tend to see, okay, first section, all right, they're going to wind up, they're going to do a trick pass going to the side. All right, a little section here, maybe to the middle or to the corner, and you know what's coming next. And that's something that I'm trying to break myself, because I feel like I've kind of gotten caught in that a little bit. But that's one thing that just made watching their form so exciting, because it was an element of surprise. You never knew what they were going to do next. And kind of now you look, and a lot of times you make a good as to what's going to happen next in a person's form, which makes it slightly less exciting. But Watching that makes me want to go train.
That's awesome. And hey, you guys have a chance to go train now because we're going to wrap this show up. But that is a great message to end on is, hey, young competitors out there, if you want to make yourself known and you want to be successful and you want to step up your game, break the mold, right? If you're a competitor who has never won a division and you're still backing into the corner to run and do a flash kick, stop doing it. Don't do that anymore. Find a way to mix it up. Find a way to be different, right? If you see one of the pros go and do a flash kick, it's because the judges aren't going to downgrade them because they're one of the pros. Everything else is so good that they can do a flash kick to the corner and it's not the end of the world. But if you're trying to make yourself known, you need to stand out and be different. And I would also tell some of the pros that still do a flash kick to the corner that maybe you could do something else. Right? Just maybe. But anyway, Haley, like you mentioned, right? At the end of the day, competitors do what it takes to win, right? And so if you're building a form and you're kind of stuck and you're like, well, shoot, I need to get to that corner. I guess I'm just going to do this. And if it wins, like there's no incentive for that to change. And it's also like, I hear people say that like, well, the judges should stop giving it to people who do flash kicks to the corner. And it's like, well, if I watch Haley Glass against some random girl off the street from, Tiger Dojo South, right? And Haley does a flash kick and the other girl doesn't. I'm not going to give it to the other girl just because I don't like that Haley did a flash kick. The judges still have to reward the best form. So I would argue in that instance, it's not on the judges because the judges have to reward what the best form is. That is on the competitors to change it up and do something different, right? Where I do think it is on the judges is when we get to the weapons discussion of there being too many tricks, right? Because if there are too many tricks, that is a reasonable grounds to bring someone's score down compared to like they just did one trick that you think is overused and that you don't like, right? So I don't mean that I wanted to specify that I'm not being hypocritical there. There's a big difference between a flash kick to the corner and a bow form that has 70% releases and 30% strikes because it should be at least 50-50, if not better than that. But I digress. I've gotten on my soapbox a lot tonight. You guys get me going. But that's why I had you guys back on the show. I knew there would be a lot of really good conversations and really a lot of great advice. So again, young competitors, if you're just tuning in, make sure you rewind this thing. Watch this whole show all the way through because there's really some great nuggets for competitors at any level here from both Haley and Alex. So to the both of you, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show tonight. I really do appreciate it. I'll open it up. Any closing thoughts from either of you?
You want to go first, Alex?
Yeah, I'll go quick because I got to bounce in a sec. But no, Jackson first. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate coming on the show always and talking about our sport and just talking about it. But no, everybody, like Jackson was saying, if you want to be different, just go out there and do it. Right? There's no instructions or rules that tell you have to be this way. You have to run a form that way. You got to fight this way, compete this way. Be yourself. Right? That's like I said earlier. That's what's working for me. So be yourself. Believe in yourself. Right? Because there's gonna be times where it gets tough. Just really believe in yourself and keep pushing forward.
That's awesome. And Haley, take us home.
Thank you again, Jackson, for having us. It's always a great time. I love talking just about our sport. We can go for hours about so many different things, but it's been some great conversation. And of course, let's be ourselves always. But also for one thing that's really helped me is don't be afraid to get inspiration and to call upon people who have done it before you to see how they did it and then find your own way. You don't want to copy somebody else. But it doesn't hurt to ask for help or to ask for guidance. It goes a long way, which is exactly why, if you can, watch it again because we put out some great tips here.
Well, thank you guys both again, both for the kind words about the show and for taking the time. One last thing real quick. We got hashtag JRP Challenge of the Week because we got 2 comma competitors and we did a whole lot of comma talk on the show tonight. All you got to do if you want a chance to get on this podcast, post a video this week with the hashtag JRP Challenge of you doing commas. Could be a section, could be a form, could be one trick, doesn't matter. Post a video of you doing commas and you will have a chance to be featured on next week's episode of the Jackson Rudolph Podcast. So once again, don't forget the hashtag JRP Challenge. I check Instagram and Facebook for that. So tag me, tag Black Belt Magazine, and most importantly, put that hashtag JRP challenge, and you have a chance to be on next week's show. This has been episode 97 of the Jackson Rudolph Podcast, brought to you by Black Belt Magazine. This time we had Alex Mancillas, Haley Glass. It was an awesome show. I'm your host, Jackson Rudolph, and I'll see you next time.